In this video, we're going to be looking at the most insane and cursed bosses in modded Terraria, from an even more cursed version of Mechdusa to bosses with mechanics never to be seen before in Terraria. Introducing TETRAD mod. This mod primary focus is on adding insane boss fights into Terraria. Right now there are a total of 9 unique boss fights. It's actually 10 if we're including Lepus, which this mod apparently adds. It's actually terrifying because it can multiply itself into copious amounts, but nothing an overpowered beam can't solve. And to save time, I will try to fully describe these boss fights as simple and as short as possible. The first boss is the giant desert dragon. Shortly described, it's a big-ass flying dragon that rains down meteor and shoots huge laser spheres at you. I love how this boss telegraphs its attacks. It might seem like nothing when it roars, but it's actually telegraphing its next attack. It roars a few times, then when it's done roaring, meteors will rain down from the sky in telegraph circle spheres. I simply do not comprehend how you would dodge this attack. And the attack in which the dragon encases you in a circle looks cool, but with this small area to move, how do you dodge the meteors? It's a bit unrealistic, isn't it? 7 out of 10. The next boss is Hollow Duke. As its name describes, it's a hollowed version of Duke Fishron, or if Duke Fishron fuses with Empress of Light and receives all of her attacks. Out of all the bosses in this mod, Hollow Duke is one of the more tamer ones. You'll see why later. The attacks are pretty much just a slightly different variant of Empress of Light attacks. However, it does have a phase where you are trapped inside a circle being guarded by tons of lasers. While it looks cool, I genuinely think it is unfair, as you are given no idea or clue where Hollow Duke would appear and charge at you next. It lacks telegraphs. It might seem cool in concept, but it just doesn't work well for a boss fight. And since Hollow Duke is basically just Duke Fishron with Empress of Light attacks, I see not much creativity put into it, and I sadly have to give this boss a 5 out of 10. At least this boss drops an accessory that basically upgrades every Duke Fishron drops, turning them cooler and more powerful, so that's pretty neat. The next boss is Wall of Temple. When you summon it, your screen gets into a lock position as 2 walls consisting of Spasmatism and Retinazer closes into you and tries to crush you to death. A pretty dark way to describe it, but it's true. This boss shoots a lot of variants of laser attacks, from laser spheres to laser death rays. Some of the laser spheres variants remind me of Toho balls. Shortly described, it is what happens if Wall of Flash fuses with the twins. Just like the twins, it gets stronger during phase 2. Its laser projectiles and flames turn green, and it can now do deadlier version of laser attacks like these deadly laser walls. Most of its attacks are basically an enhanced version of the twins attacks. This boss might look boring on paper, but actually good in execution. Honestly, quite a unique case, 8 out of 10. The next boss is Queen of Night. Shortly described, Empress of Light on steroids. Yeah, that sums it up well. While it might look just like a harder version of Empress of Light, it does have some unique attack variants, like this one where she duplicates herself, which I absolutely have no idea on how to dodge it properly. And this other one where she spreads lines of lasers around her in a circular motion. It is hard to dodge, but it looks beautiful. But among the enhanced and extreme version of Empress of Light mods such as Radiance or MEAC rework, what does TETRAD do to make her stand out? The answer might be a little bit surprising, but Dance Dance Revolution. Yes. This boss has an attack where it forces you to do specific course of movement in form of arrow boxes on top of your head. While it might seem silly, I find this idea quite interesting. And of course, you don't want to press the wrong key. It might not end up well for you. I think this boss is safe mostly due to the Dance Dance Revolution attack. So 7 out of 10. Okay, the next boss is an absolute abhorrent cursed abomination. Its name is Hyper Medusa. It is a cursed twist on Mechdusa, a joke boss that the developer of Terraria, Redigit, made during the 1.4.4 update for the Secret Seed. Already at the first glance, this boss looks like the nightmare of every Terrarian dreams. The way it darkens your screen and everything about it screams unholy and cursed, putting every vanilla boss's strongest aspects like Moonlord lasers and Plantera tentacles into a single abomination of a boss is probably not the best idea in my honest opinion. Okay, but jokes aside, I genuinely think the fight is horrible and it's probably made to be a joke boss. I don't think the developer tried to make the fight fun or actually doable. It's more of a joke meme fight. I hope. There are some attacks that are easy to dodge and slow, then suddenly a barrage of unpredictable fast attacks come along with it. They're not hard or impossible to dodge. It's just that all of the attacks in this fight extremely lack synergy with each other, and they also feel forced. This fight is probably a 2 out of 10, but just because it looks fresh and funny, I'll give it a generous 5 out of 10. The next boss is Water Demon. At first when you summon it, you're greeted with a unique spawning animation, where it summons like a nether portal where the boss comes out from it. Okay, shortly described, this boss is a water elemental that goes crazy with her attacks. I don't really know how to describe it, to be honest. I mean, just look at this. How would you expect a sane person to dodge this many water typhoons? To be fair, I think you can dodge them, but you probably need to become a no-hitter first. Although, I absolutely love this one attack where she spews out realistic looking water and tries to float and suffocate you with it. It looks cursed in Terraria, but it looks really cool. And I find it interesting that this boss also uses some 3D models in her attacks, like this water cube she shoots out, but it does feel kinda out of place. I find this boss visually interesting, but some of her attacks, while they might look cool, some are just too messy. Give her her own dedicated sprite model, and she'd easily be a 7.5 out of 10. The next boss is Hellshadowflame Demon. Yikes, that is one of an edgy name for sure. And that's one hell of a show for an introduction attack. Looks cool though, so I'm not gonna complain. And it looks like this boss is a fan of the bullet hell genre as well, not a surprise. This boss has a unique checkerboard attack with grid patterns that I don't quite understand what it does. Look, it was 4 AM when I recorded this. The last thing I want to learn is how to dodge an emo demon checkerboard attack. Give me a break. And as if it wasn't made obvious, it looks like this boss is a fan of purple laser attacks with all of those telegraph laser line attacks. Not gonna lie, some of the attacks from this fight heavily reminds me of Fargo's mutant boss fight, but if they were purple. I'm not saying this mod copies Fargo, it just reminds me of it. While the attacks of this boss might seem visually cool, I feel like it's blurring the line of an actual Terraria boss fight with a typical bullet hell genre like Touhou. It does have a very cool black hole attack when it's about to die, which is actually pretty neat. However, Hellshadowflame Demon really needs to get out of his emo phase and face the harsher and darker reality. You are not a hell demon, Jimothy. Go do your homework. Another 7.5 out of 10. The next boss is the True Red Knight. I'll be quick on this one. Shortly described, it has a phase 1 where it does weak attacks. However, it unleashes its true potential in phase 2, releasing all of its celestial powers, with themes similar to the celestial pillars we usually destroy in order to summon Moonlord. I wouldn't say the attacks are boring, however, I don't know why but it feels too generic for some reason to me. Maybe it's just me, or maybe it's just because the rest of the bosses in this mod have much crazier attacks than this one. Well, I do have to give a compliment to one of its attacks where it spreads out these tombstones. You have to match all of them into the same tombstone in order to survive the attack. If you don't make it on time, let's just say that things won't end up well for you. It's a pretty neat mechanic and a creative attack. And this boss final phase, where it somehow shoots out the sort of move you'll see in the typical trope of power of friendship in anime, is quite interesting to say the least. 6 out of 10. Before we continue, I'd like to do a mini shout out to one of my sponsor, Gamersubs. They did not specifically tell me to make an ad on this video, but I just kinda wanted to promote them, because I think they're very awesome sponsors with good products. Basically, they sell delicious gamer energy drinks with awesome flavors and also tons of waifu bottles and products. They often release new awesome products every month, like the Season 4 Catgirl bottles. And as always, you can use my code GETGOOD to get 10% off your order. It will help us out and save you guys some money as well. Thank you Gamersubs, back to the video. The next boss is Realmsoul, the Undead Mage leader. That's a long-ass goofy name, not gonna lie. While at first it seems like a generic bullet hell boss fight, just wait for it. Out of nowhere, you'll be greeted by flashy sword attacks that just look and feel insane. Right now, this is the final boss of this mod, and it really does deliver the final boss feeling with the overwhelming attacks and complex design. Why is this video taking a lot longer than I expected? I thought this would be just a quick video of me explaining, haha, this mod adds bosses that are cool. Why do I keep doing this to myself? Why am I ranting? Why do I exist? I have gone too deep to back out now. This boss literally does a Fair Jill Judgment God style in one of his attacks. And in my opinion, this is the correct way to implement bullet hell design in Terraria bosses. It overwhelms you, but at the same time, it doesn't feel too much or overloading. If it wasn't for the God mode I've been using throughout this whole mod, I would have been dead 5 seconds into any of these mod boss fights. But yes, this boss attacks does look insanely cool and extremely flashy in a good way. And it does really serve as a good way to deliver the final battle feeling. Just because of the swords and Virgil Judgment cut, it is at least an 8.5 out of 10, maybe 9 even. This video unexpectedly turned out to be very long, even though I just wanted to make a quick video on this mod. I have officially fell down the YouTuber rabbit hole of making unnecessary long content. But that's about it, thank you for watching and see ya.